Welcome to the Paris-Brussels 252 kilometres today. By the modern methods of science and technology and satellite birds up in the sky, we have the opportunity of bringing you the Paris-Brussels. Those who've been watching the Tour of Spain, we're also watching the same pictures you're watching, and I'm here to see what's going on just as much as you are. We've got a breakaway group, by the way, I'm informed, and this breakaway group only 27 seconds lead at the moment on the main pack. So there with, second in line here, Eric van der Aarden driving this one hard. Some of these big, strong Belgian rollers are out there to try and do what they can to pull back the group, which includes last year's victor, Rolf Sorensen, and also Museo in that group. The time check, we have 27 seconds for the leading group. And I think it might well come back all together again as the riders here then are doing what they can to cut that deficit and put it all back together again. Ludo Dex then of the Koolstrap team there is Eric van der Aarden, a very great sprinter specialist indeed, Eric, and looking to try and towards the end of his career add the Paris-Brussels to his list of successes over a long period of time, because he won way back in 1984, and so if in fact he can win today, that will give him a victory over an 11-year span. In fact, the gap then now back is to 31 seconds. And what a difference we're watching here too on the screen. As also there we got the Lotto rider coming through, Nellison, another sprinter specialist, these big burly Belgian roadmen who can really ride at a great rate of knots over the flat terrain on this road from Paris to Brussels. It doesn't actually start exactly in Paris, by the way, nor does it finish in the centre of Brussels. I mean, it used to do many years ago, but the UCI in their wisdom have suggested, in fact, that the course should be shortened. And they've got 37 kilometres to go, or 38 kilometres in fact, so inside the final 25 miles or so. And when this first race started up, by the way, and it was from Paris to Brussels way back in 1907, they actually covered 405 kilometres to do that ride. And in 1908 they went a bit further around and covered 420 kilometres, so it's much shorter today, 252 kilometres in all. And we're going to have a look now at a crash, by the way. It happened just a bit earlier on. And this is the problem, that when they're thundering along at that sort of speed, that you just get a touch of wheels, and here an official trying to make sure the poor rider who's really grovelled of that crash is avoided by the rest of the field. There he is on the central reservation, just touched the wheel and came down back. One of the Astra rides it was that came down, and a rather bad knock it was too. So you can see why in Belgium they insist on wearing crash helmets, by the way. So there's fast-moving bunch of riders now, slimmed down a bit by the sheer speed and the crashes, who started this morning at Noyon, N-O-Y-O-N, which is 80 kilometres north of Paris, some 50 miles north of Paris at Noyon. And the route then ran in a sort of generally easterly direction, for it turned left and then went up towards Mons and then in towards Anderlecht near Brussels. So we're going to finish out at Anderlecht, centre of that very famous football club. We'll be going over one or two short, sharp little climbs on the way in towards the finish, particularly Almsberg, and there's a bit of pavé there just before they get to finish too. So they'll be picking up some pretty rough stuff, and the typical Belgian short, sharp little climbs as well towards the back end of the race. The early part, short, sharp climb, as soon as I say it, then we're back up there and we're on the climbs that I've just mentioned to you. And these are leg breakers when they've been travelling at the sort of speed that they've been travelling at so far. That's your Museo we just saw back there. Here on the left-hand side here, Museo, who finished in third spot in 1993. To the third spot, Sean Yates finished in third spot last year in this race as well, and Sean's been in fine form too in this race, so nice to see Sean back in action. Museo then with this particular group. And we also know that in the group is last year's victor, Rolf Sorensen. And Sorensen it is that's on the front driving this one along. And a 30-second lead with about 37 kilometres to go. So this could be quite close. And on twists and turns here, Almsberg is the place here I mentioned to you. And the little bit of pavé, they're going to go over that stretch of pavé will certainly shake them up a little bit. Just a quick look there at Rolf Jarman of the same team from Sorensen. So Sorensen certainly got himself some useful assistance in this group. MG Technogym, Mappe rider Ralph Johan Museo sitting in the group. There's Rolf Sørensen, last year's victor. The Danish rider, very, very experienced, professional indeed. Won it also in 1992, so he's probably going for a triple now. And not many riders have done that over the years. Get themselves 3 victories in the Paris-Brussels. Also in the break there, Franco Ballerini for the Mapei team. And there goes Sørensen on the front, really rolling away. 22 seconds, it has come down. I should think this must be all over bar the shouting. I can't imagine that, although there's a lot of quality riders in this one, that the chasing from behind shouldn't pull them back. It's been yo-yoing for quite some time now. As Jarman speeds his way through. Wow! Look at that, they had to go over the top of that little central reservation, flick their bikes round it. When the big bunch comes through to that one, they'll be bouncing all over the place. Keep your fingers crossed nobody else comes off. These lads very quick. You see the instantaneous reactions they have, though, when suddenly there's some obstruction comes in the road in front of them. They suddenly flick their bikes round it. That's Brian Holm, by the way, from the Telecom team in the group. And just 29 kilometres to go to the finish. Also in this breakaway group, we have Martin Den Bakker for the TVM team. And for the Lotto team, that's André Chamil, who's a very great specialist when it comes to riding up in this neck of the woods, winner of the Paris-Roubaix last year. And he's got one of his teammates in there as well with him, Serge Bagouet, number 23. So Lotto well represented. So some of the top teams here, TVM, MG and Mapei, have got some good blokes up in that break. So the chasing from behind must be down to people like the Novell team, Palmans. I'm looking down who else might be in with a shout to try and pull this one back. Gann have got Duke Larsell riding it. Colstrop are really doing a lot of work on the front at the moment. And they've been very determined here. Peter Verbeeken of the Colstrop team trying to get back into contention. I would have thought, though, looking down the rest of the field, they're 23 seconds. Oh, it's touch and go all the way. And Colstrop really are sticking on the front and riding for this one. Look at the bike handling skills. That's Eric. Sorry, Lula Dex in there. Oh, wow, they really are spread out. And that's 23 seconds. I think it's all over now. They've got this short, sharp little climb. They look back down there, can see that lot thundering along. There's some good talent here, really. I'm surprised it doesn't seem to be rolling too well at the moment, though. Now the gaps are here, you see. They're not actually working very well indeed. As Jarman pulls off the front there, there's a gap opening up, you see. I think one or two at the back are saying, stop it, we'll drop back into the group behind. And he's got to go back in and roll here behind Johan Mazeo. As Brian Holm comes through and back again to Rolf Jarman. There's so many top people there. I'm surprised they're not rolling in a more controlled way. Perhaps they're just waiting for this lot to blow a gasket, because the speed both groups are travelling at the moment means the gap's going to be kept more or less constant, I'd have thought. Yeah, they've got to bring up more firepower. Now, one of the teams we've got to look out for here, by the way, are the numbers as they're just going through. He's not going to do any chasing either. The Lotto rider, Wilfred Nellison, there in the black, yellow and red colours, the national champion of Belgium. He's not going to chase that one down because he's got Chamil and Bagouet in the leading group. This fellow here, number 16, is also going to break the rhythm up. Carlo Bowman's ex-champion of Belgium, because he's got a man away in the group, so he's not going to chase down either. So Joe Planckaert here for Colstrop. probably looking for a good sprint finish. The Colstrop boys are trying to do what they can. Now Motorola haven't got anybody in that leading group, so perhaps they might be interested in going. The Motorola team today: Steve Bauer, Sean Yates, Michael Denise, Gordon Fraser, Bjorn Stenison and Steven Schwartz, Max van Heijswijk and Wieven Veenstra. Now, yeah, I'm not surprised they've come through and started a roll here, because Motorola could, with Max van Heijswijk, who's a very fast sprinter indeed, and also Wieven Veenstra, be in with a shout at the end of this one. So Motorola must be bringing up the firepower to do a bit of the chasing down. But there's only one Motorola rider there at the moment. God knows what happened to the rest of them. No, there's only one at the moment. And that's Steven Schwartz. Another change there, Rick Coppens from the Zettenhallen team. We're going to see lots of riders in this race, so we don't normally see on the big classics. And they're going through at the moment, number 91, Danny Delman for the Rotan Spiessens team. We're looking at, this is a fellow I think who crashed just a bit further down the road. Having a bit of mechanical attention as they're going along. And there's the Motorola car going up. Yep, the red one, as I said, I thought that they might be interested in trying to do something to pull back that brake, so they've probably gone forward. He's having a chat down there. The red car, the red Volvo, that's the Motorola team car, and probably issuing some instructions as to what they ought to do. That's a little rundown then on the riders on the left-hand side. So right-hand side is a classification overall on the UCI classification on points award in the various races. Mazou, Schmil, Sorensen, Ballerini, Yaman, Den Bakker, Home and Kohlers. That's Slem the lead, Yo-Yo in between 20 and 30 seconds, heading up towards Anderlecht to finish of the Paris-Brussels today. And that gap still not so comfortable, I think, and they've got to still keep going, but the chase are going to come on very thick and fast from behind. This group still trying to catch back the breakaways, and as yet that gap not come down much below the 23 seconds. What a powerful fellow here. Look at him thundering along here. Marc Boulon for the Sedico team. There's some real chunky riders in this one. Typical Belgian, Dutch type road riders who are very capable of putting in a big gear and just grinding away in the front. I mentioned you earlier on that another team in here, if you had a chance to see them, it's the GS Maestro team, and some of the British riders in there. Tim Harris, 161, Nigel Perry, 162, Reynolds Jones, 163, Big Ben Buckwell, Ben Luckwell, 164, Simon Howes in there, 165, Harry Spate, 168, and Steve Senior in there, and a little gentleman from Japan called Masahiko. It's a roving band of the Maestro riders who camp out over in Belgium and ride most of the big criteriums and comesses over there, and now they're riding in the Paris-Brussels. So good luck to the roving band of Brits plus one or two others they've got as they're now at Almsberg on this little climb, a short sharp one, which will help sap the strength of the riders. The chasing group might well find themselves losing a bit of speed up here. And I wonder if anybody's going to... I wouldn't have thought that they're going to be prepared to blast off on this one and try and get away and split the whole thing up, because it's... I think all those riders have got to stay together. No, somebody's jumping around on the front. That's Martin Den Bakker at the back for the TVM squad. And, well, last but one to be more precise, as Serge Bagaway was the final tail end Charlie. There they go. All right, split. The chasing group is split now on the climb. And the pavé as well. Oh, typical Belgian stuff, this. determined look on his face. Pop the camera if he didn't get out of the way, I should think, the way he rode up there. Now that's interesting. Nice marking going on here, because Van den Broek, who had a second place the other day, has come straight across. He came up on the wheel then of Joe Planckaert, and now Van den Broek's going across. Already Johan Museeuw and Ballerini are in that front group, and this fellow now, Joe Planckaert, the famous Planckaert family, is now unable to hold the pace. And look at the way in which Van den Broek has gone across this gap. There's a very, very good talent, this fellow, and they're all saying that you know, they all say he's going to be the next Eddie Merckx. It often happens. And around this particular corner, I remember it well myself from last year. There they go, and he's going to close up. He jumps across that gap on the climb, and here he comes, Van den Broek. A little graphic down the bottom side there. So that's then going to put the Mapei team with a lot more strength, because already up there in the front, Johan Museeuw, and I think Franco Ballerini as well. He's made it. He's made it. Well, Lotto are trying to get somebody else up as well. They probably think they're going to be outnumbered. So the climb has done more damage to the chasing group, I would think, than it has to the leaders at the moment. Ah, Ludwig, Olaf Ludwig himself. Well, he certainly is not going to chase across this one. He'll sit on wheels, I'd have thought, because he's got Brian Home in that group. Big Olaf Ludwig, powerful rider indeed. I think he's just doing a marking job here. He's not going to make the chase, but I'm surprised to see how the Lotto rider there, Scott Sunderland, was driving hard to try and get across that one. You can just give us some idea of how they bounce the pictures backwards and forwards. That helicopter, you get one picture coming up from the motorcycles to the helicopter, then on to another helicopter, and that was another feed point to bounce the pictures across to the big cabs at the finish, and then up into the sky. And that's how we're able to bring you these big races from Spain and from Belgium. And here's Sunderland Planckaert trying to close that gap. And Scott Sunderland and Planckaert together with Ludwig wedged a bit in no man's land. What was the big chasing group has not really made much impression on that hill. We just these three go across to try and catch up with our leaders, and one man who just went across like greased lightning, Van den Broek, has now joined up with the leading group and left these three at 12 seconds. So the Museeuw group with Sorensen, Jarman, Museeuw, Ballerini, Van den Broek, Chamil, Baguet, Martin den Bakker and Brian Home might well have reinforcements yet. There they are. I should think that Johan Museeuw must be, with 20 kilometres to go, must be really thankful and happy now that he's got another teammate up with him to try and improve upon his third spot in 1993. Brian Home, who's in that breakaway group at the moment, won the Paris-Brussels in 1991. Ballerini won it in 1990. So we've got a lot of very knowledgeable talent in this particular group. And it's 11 seconds. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll jump across that one. Castorama trying to go for it. So there's going to be a lot of spirited attacks from behind. That looks like Bruno Boscard in for Festina Lotus. Also in that little split group. Yep, they know they're coming up now. Serge Baguet looks back and realises he's going to have another black and red jersey up alongside him any moment now. Well, Van den Broek's doing just the right thing. He jumped across the gap and he's now sitting in there. His talented youngster really is happy to have made the junction, but I think you'd have to just wait a bit longer, or they've kind of come up. That's going to make 3 from Lotto, 2 from Telecom. Where are they now? And the Colstrap rider, Joe Planckaert, who was the first to try and go across that gap. There he is. Ludwig has now decided he might as well, they're so close, he might as well do a bit of chasing on the front, because Brandholm is seriously outnumbered his teammate from the Telecom team. And with Ludwig up there, that's going to add even more firepower. Well, I should think by now that little group, if they go down and count heads, can say to themselves, we're going to be in deep trouble if we don't work together here. And let's see who's doing most of the work on the front. Festina started to drive this one along. They're trying to set this up for Lars Mikkelsen, by the way. He must be the man they're hoping to do a good ride today. And I remember that Stephen Hodge was working with us on the Tour of Spain before he went off to ride the Paris-Brussels, said that they had been looking for Lars Mikkelsen in the Grand Prix for me, because he seems to be on form. So I suggest that's probably what the Festina team are trying to do right now to close this one down. So we'd like to see a lot more pale blue jerseys on the front. And likewise with the Castorama team, Thierry Marie, Jackie Durand and so on, some pretty good rollers. I think probably the Castorama and the Festina Lotus are likely to be the teams that we're attempting to chase this one down. Oh, consider Blackheart's face there. He's made it across here with this lot, and he's absolutely screwed. Well, the latecomers, those who only just got to this this group, will now be having to get their breath back before they start to get a nice little rhythm going. And there they are. Yeah, Ludwig's just sitting on the back, having come up. You can have a quick word with Brandholm. That's intriguing. Jarman is jumping around here, and unless I can't understand the tactics. See, their number one, Ralph Sorensen, last year's victor, rides also for MG Technogym, and Jarman's gone on the front and really rocketed off there, causing this lot to go. And you see 24 seconds. It's been like that on and off all the way. 20, 22 seconds, then 30. And there's a big enough group here, but jumping around like that won't give it the rhythm it wants. Perhaps they think it's too big now and there are too many people up here. Yes, that seems to be the tactics. They have another thought out. Get shut out the weak, the sick and afflicted. And one who's suffering is Ralph Sorensen. Sorensen, I can just see him there beginning to sit up and not be too happy with things. Scott Sunderland at the back here. Another of the latecomers to the group is going to sit in for a bit a while. And they're just looking over there to see the gaps aren't too quick and too big. Every man for himself. There seems to be no love lost nor team tactics amongst this little lot. I just can't quite cope with live with this one. See that? Look, right a third through, fourth through, just whizzed through and has gone again. That might be Jarman. He's jumping all over the place, or is it Sorensen who? Perhaps they're trying the old 1-2. That'll give you some idea that Almsberg then through the lot and then down in towards Anderlecht for the finish. There's a very, very talented bike riders in this one, but I think at the moment they're all trying to work out their own destiny. Ballerini hasn't been taking much part in the proceedings so far. He's just been sitting there. That gives you, there, well, there's a rundown on all the riders that are in this one. My mistake, by the way, I said Serge Bagger, the Lotto team, was in there. He's been replaced by Tom Corvez, number 23. So Modern Science bouncing with the pictures of the race, didn't bounce with the up-to-date start list. But this little group of riders here, still you see how the gaps are opening up at the moment. What they don't want to do is to carry too many passengers, yet they're not working at all. Look at this. I find this quite surprising. They probably think they're going to get caught, so that could be over the ridge. Oh, Duke Lascelles driving it here. This is a group then, probably only about 20 seconds separating them from the breakaway riders. Duke Lascelles for the GAN team has started really to ride hard in the front. The grand old man of cycling, if I excuse me for saying that, because he's got 40-something, 40-41, still showing that enormous courage that he's got when it comes to winning races like the Paris-Roubaix. And here he is. He loves these sort of flat rolling terrain. He's got the gap down to 11 seconds. So GAN looking to try and get something out of this one. I thought the French teams, Castorama and Festina Lotus, might start to go quite a bit, but Duke Lascelles been driving hard in the front there. Eddie Senior went on a long break at one time. He had a breakaway of 80 kilometres, by the way, Eddie Senior. His maximum lead was 15 minutes and 40 seconds. He finally got swallowed up, and then this breakaway group started to form after that. So he really had a fair old ride this morning, Eddie Senior. Something about 46 kilometres to go, he got caught with the main group. So they've already sent one man out, GAN have. A long effort by the French champion to try and win the race, but as ever, it usually happens that way on the Paris-Brussels, that somebody goes for an awful long one. In fact, Moreau, when he won the Paris-Brussels in 1993, did just that. He went out and just did a long lone time trial. Gelignano came in second place. Moselle was back in third. So that was a long time trial from Francis Moreau. Well, Senior tried as well this year. Shot off and had some 80 kilometres out in the lead, but got himself absorbed when all the action started to go. And this breakaway group here of Sorensen, Moselle, Ballerina, Chmil, Corvers, Yaman, Den Bakker and Home all established themselves at the front, latterly joined by Joe Planckaert, Van den Broek, and also in there Scott Sunderland. 11 seconds, not a lot amongst friends. I think most of the riders have decided it's all over, but poor Joe Planckaert, he drove himself up that leading group, and these lot have been away for a long time and now realise it's all over. But a couple of them just nipped off down the road as they go through the cabbage patches. A very agricultural part of Belgium, having come up from Noyon this morning in towards Anderlecht. And yeah, I thought one or two would start winding up down the road. There's a couple disappeared down there. I think it might have been Van den Broek that's tried to have a charge off the front. So when the group comes up, unless they count heads, they might think they've got them, but a couple have gone down the road there. In fact, there are three of them here. So Covers together with, yep, I thought it was Van den Broek and Sorensen who was persisting. Now, young Van den Broek, this is a really stylish lad. Look, tremendously, they're saying this lad's an enormous talent, and right now he's shown it. He got up to that breakaway group. He said, flicks with his wrist, come on through, Rolf. And Rolf Sorensen, who's desperate to try and get his third victory in the Paris-Roubaix, prepared also to come through as well. That's a nice move by these three. I'm not sure how much help they're going to get, though, from Corvers here at the back. The Lotto rider, I don't, should be saying it, I don't think he's quite in the same class as the other two. He'll probably come and thump him with his bicycle pump when he's finished, but the two with him at the moment are probably going to be the hardest riders in that group. And now, so here comes the main bunch. Let's see what happens. If they sit up and thinking they've got them, yeah, and it looks like Sean Yates has brought the Motorola's up. Straight onto the pavement, off we go. Go on, lads. Hear the whistles then, that's so the lads, if they don't see the flag, they can actually hear that there's a problem ahead. And I think they've done the head count and realised there are three blokes down the road. Well, Covers is coming through, so I beg his pardon. And he's starting to roll with this one then. Quite a young rider, 25-year-old member of the Lotto team. In fact, I read somewhere that Lotto are trying to merge with PDM. That's the French equivalent of the Tote back in England, where they control all the horse racing. Lotto being the what's equivalent in Great Britain of the lottery organisation, National Lottery. And of course PDM are the people, sorry, PMD, PMU, let's get it right, PMU are the people who support the Tour de France with the green points jersey. PMU and Lotto make quite an interesting combination as businesses, but I wonder what will happen with their money into cycle sponsorship, because Lotto supports a Belgian team and PMU, the lottery organisation for horse racing in France, support the Tour de France. Here we go, more changes coming on, left, right and centre, and this is Jim van der Leer of the TVM team. Who, what, a couple of years ago were the best placed Belgian in the Tour de France when they had a struggle to finish a lot of riders. Belgium going through a pretty bad patch as regards strength in depth of bike riders. And a lot of the zip seems to have gone out of that group behind. So leaves Jim van der Leer with a chance of riding on his own. But I think it's a forlorn task the way those top three riders were going. We're getting quite close to finish. It must need a much more coercive attempt to pull back those leading three riders. So Jim van der Leer on his own. I don't think he's going to do much out there like that. Inside 10 Ks to go. He's persisting, but I think he's going to need help. So with three riders out in front, 10 Ks to go, their lead. I'm waiting for a time check on that one, but it's going to be no more than about 20 seconds or so. And if any of the top sprinters in this little group are thinking of getting a chance, see, the Lotto car came up. I wonder what the tack's going to be, because Lotto's got Corvers in that leading group at the moment. And their best sprinter, of course, is the Belgian national champion, Wilfried Nelissen. And I thought that's why I'm surprised to see Corvers driving hard. Yeah, here we go, Lotto on the front. They've got to track and pull their man back. Now, although they've got a man up there in the front, they will certainly now start to drive this one on for Wilfried Nelissen. And I'm surprised the team car didn't go forward. Likewise, to say to Tom Corvers, here lad, kick back a bit. We don't want you to do too much work on the front. In fact, if necessary, come back into the main group. But Tom is here driving on. I'm surprised the team manager hasn't come up to him and given the old telling off, because the man to win today has got to be, as far as the sprint's concerned for their team, it's got to be Wilfried Nelissen. So there you are, there's a Lotto team on the front, the red and black coming. There, see the black, yellow and red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just the top of your screen. Come on, move the camera down. But there he is, top of your screen, just underneath Eurosport Live. That's Nelissen, who was the other sprinter that came down with Jalabert in the Tour de France at Armentières just over 12 months ago. He's in that group, and Tom Corvers is still rolling hard. Well, you never know with these things, by the way, because I haven't read in the Belgian papers exactly where Tom is going to. He might be leaving the team next year at the end of the season, and is looking to impress his new sponsor. These sort of things do happen from time to time, but I would have thought he'd get a right old wigging from his team manager if he keeps that little group away, because he's up with some very serious talent. Here we are, the black and reds are rolling. And look who's sitting on the wheels there, Johan Museeuw. Just sitting in there very nicely. And Sorensen, number one here, winner last year in the Paris-Brussels, and winner in 1992 as well, still driving this one through. And they're quite happy, I think, that he should do all the work and just keep him in sight. And Van den Broek from Mapei. Really, it ought to be these two. Tom ought to sit on the wheels and let himself be towed along. And what's happening now? Is he going through? Well, he is. Van den Broek, who's only just got his transfer into the Mapei team. There's all sorts of problems last year when he was with the other lot, the Techno Gym lot, and got himself, he wanted to try and get himself transferred across, and here he is into the Mapei team now, having left his uncle in the Lotto lot. And so I wonder if he's been able to encourage, having ridden with Tom Corvers, for the rest to go. TVM rolling through, yep, we'd expect them, but of course their star sprinter is in Spain, Lyle Evans, and that means that TBM maybe just trying to set things up for Yellowknightham. That's the man they've got to watch out for. The big fast sprinter himself, Wilfried Nelson. Big Sean Yates on the far side looks to me that he's driving through as well as far as Motorola concerned. And we had a quick brief glimpse of Duke Lancel as well. 30 seconds this gap. They ran about, what, 7 kilometres to go from the finish. And on the back then, young Van den Broek, who just had one victory last year as a professional when he won a stage in the Tour of the Mediterranean, as he had some problems with his transfer from the Lotto team. So it's just on 6 kilometres to go. And still Tom Corwith is driving this one along. Well, perhaps there must be some sense in this. He must know what he's up to. Van den Broek on the front again, and then Sorensen. Well, of this little group here, Sorensen by far and away the most experienced competitor, been a professional now for well over 10 years as such, and his list of successes is almost as long as your arm. And yet again, Motorola coming through as well, and the GAN lot setting it up, so there's a lot of good teams in there to pull this one through. Countdown on the time gap, just some 16 seconds it says here. Well, that looks like they might still find themselves being caught. Sorensen burying himself at the front here. Stage victories in the Tour de France. Spent a lot of time racing in Italy, riding with the MG Technogym team. And has won things like the Liège-Bastogne-Liège in his career, and the Paris-Brussels a couple of times, Milan-Turin. But I think he's decided enough's enough, and he's sitting up, letting a gap open up now at the moment. Unless it's just so he can suddenly rush past everybody else, I don't know. No, he's still showing some strength here. Van den Broek is rolling very confident indeed. That lad is looking good now. His uncle being the team manager of the Lotto team. And now Lotto doing the chasing. And the whole thing is splitting on this climb. It's getting very fragmented now as Ander Chamil is going up here. Corwith has blown a gasket, and Sorensen and Van den Broek are left to do it all themselves as Tom Corwith has gone. And these two, probably if they work well together, might just be able to hang on to the end. Sorensen looks extremely strong at the moment. And young Van den Broek took a stage victory in the Tour of Luxembourg. Would now like the Paris-Brussels to add to his career list. But I don't think that Sorensen's going to give it that easy. Nelson on the front here. He won't do much work, I don't think, as home goes yet again. Well, home on the front is within that breakaway group earlier on. Knows the course well, running in towards the finish. Brian Home, winner in 1991. Tom Corwith wedged out in nowhere, poor chap. This is one of those difficult positions to be in it right now. He's got to keep rolling, but the rest of the field can see him, and he can see who's going away from up in front. He's coming back to them, though. And he's got back. Well, I thought at one time he was completely stuffed and that was it. He was over and done with, but no, Sorensen still on the front, riding hard here, together with young Van den Broek. No doubt they've got another passenger. Well, number 13, it might be unlucky to some people. For Van den Broek, it could be a lucky day for him to get a semi-classic on his list. Well, up come the Lottos. Hello, arm gone up. Is that a puncture, or are they calling for some assistance from the back? Just those three riders, and it is Sorensen who's really driving hard with Van den Broek. Van den Broek pulls over, lets Sorensen come through. Getting very close indeed now to finish of this race, with Sorensen on the front and then Van den Broek back in third. Covers hanging on for grim death. On the outskirts then of Brussels Anderlecht, the finish of the race today. The Paris-Brussels, which dates back right the way through to 1907, a very classic race when those days they would cover some 400 kilometres. But today, as they come in towards the finish now, just 252 kilometres being covered today to finish at Anderlecht. Which of these three is going to get it, or will the bunch swallow them up? Getting closer, ever closer, and this twists and turns will be to their benefit. The bunch will not like it to come swinging round here. It'll make the chase a little less controlled. Tom Covers goes on the front. Covers could be the surprise here. The big fella there from Lotto with a more powerful, punchy sprint. But for me, I've seen Sorensen win some races with a superb sprint too. Not very much aware of young Van den Broek's sprinting ability. We've not seen a great deal of him. And the man with experience, though, is Sorensen, who's got to outwit these two. And I think probably he might drop back between the two of them and come from behind. If he goes in the front, he's going to tow over either of these two through, and I think Sorensen is likely to try and work him over and drop back once he knows that they're not going to be caught by the big bunch behind. Let's see, looking back now. Sorensen doesn't want those two behind him. He wants to make sure they stay away from the main pack behind. But they're having great difficulty looking back because of the motorcycles and following cars. But all goes well. Looking now. Come on, you two, pretending they've got to drive hard and keep this thing going without getting caught. And neither of them will come behind it. Look at the gap now, it's coming down. They might still be caught. They kind of weave, looking back at the motorcycles, and a bunch is coming up absolutely nearly twice as quick as they are. So Sorensen's tactics to get the other two through might be, in fact, his undoing. He will not, he's still trying to say, come past, come past, come past, and they're going to get caught if they're not careful. So Sorensen has to do it from the front. He tried to get the other two to come past him, but they wouldn't have any of it. Tom Cordis had a lovely lead out there from Sorensen. As fighting his way through, Cordis might get it. He's the more powerful sprinter of this little group. He has sat on there, but no, Van den Broek comes past him on the line, and Van den Broek gets his first ever classic success. His uncle will be delighted with that one, and so will Mapei GB, who wanted him to come and ride for them, and they've got a success here in the Paris-Brussels. Sorensen, last year's victor, knew what he had to do to bring the other two riders off his wheel. They would not have any of it at all. They played the waiting game down right to the nth degree, and finally Van den Broek just got enough speed in his legs to go past Tom Cordis. That was close though. That bunch was really hammering towards him on the line. Whew. I'd like to just seen a very exciting finish to that race, and well, there's the on Anderlecht football stadium, now quiet from the roar of the crowds, but the roaring just then when the Belgian got that one. It'd be good then for Belgium to have a success, because looking back down the list of riders, the last one from Belgium to get the Paris-Brussels was Wim Alice in '87 and Eric van der Aarden way back in 1984. So let's look how young Van den Broek got it. Here he goes. And there, Tom Cordes tried to ride him toward the barriers, but didn't slam him into them. And so Sorensen took third spot behind Cordes. So Cordes, after staying out there and grovelling back in there again, I wonder what his team manager might say to him, because they really were setting them up for the top sprinter Nillison. And that is our victor today, young Frank Van den Broek of the MAPPE-GB team. Frank Van den Broek, victor of the Paris-Brussels, then being interviewed by the press on the finishing line here. And that's something I think we're going to see a lot more of this young man. As I say, he's been tipped at such tremendous talent, and now he's got his name on the list of the Paris-Brussels, which dates back right over since 1907. And a well-timed victory it was too. The way he rode up to join that breakaway group showed that he calculated exactly right. And when it came to the sprint, he knew what he had to do. Sorensen was completely outfoxed by these two, and Sorensen didn't quite have the same speed in his legs, so he'd been away with that breakaway group that went away quite early on the race after Eddie Saigneau had been away for some 80 kilometres with a maximum lead of some 15 minutes and 40 seconds. So it's right down, as I say, to the wire, right at the very end of this one, that you had to have the judgment. This young lad showed extreme judgment. It's not easy very often for a rider to come out of the amateur ranks and then start riding with the pros and be able to understand exactly the tactics. But I think he read this one extremely well indeed, Van den Broek, to get that victory. And perhaps his uncle might buy him a beer later on, even though his uncle looks after the Lotto squad. And here it again, top view, how the bunch nearly caught the three escapers. This is close. Didn't they come quick at them? Well, last year he had that victory stage in the Tour of Mediterranean, and a little victory in a place called Bellegum. Stage victory so far this year in the Tour of Luxembourg. And whilst we've been covering the Tour of Spain, I've got a suspicion he got a second place somewhere. I think I'm digging deep into my bag here, but he's coming good towards the back end of the year. And I'm just trying to remember why he was out for an early part of the season. He certainly had a few problems earlier on. I'm not quite sure his knee or something, but he missed a bit of the early part of the season. But he's shown now. In fact, he's only. Well, in fact, he's not 21 yet, by the way. His birthday will be on the 6th of November, so all the fireworks the day before. And he was born in 1974, which means he's just coming up towards 21 years of age. And he showed great talent, I think, in that sprint, great understanding of the tactics, and so for Jan Mazou, a very experienced campaigner indeed, who tried to go with that break, a disappointment not to get it up there despite the work that was done. He had to leave Van den Broek. He did all the early work, did Jan Mazou, third in 1993 to try and stay away. He had a third place in 1991, but I'm sure he'll be quite happy with young Van den Broek's performance today for the MAPPE-GB team. GB, by the way, is a supermarket company in Belgium. MAPPE are a company that are involved in plastics and paints in Italy, and the two of them have now joined together for this year. So GB were very happy because the GB organisation, the man who owns the GB chain of supermarkets, very great lover of cycle racing. He also sponsors lots of amateur clubs as well. And on the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, for instance, we finished right outside one of the GB supermarkets, and it was a GB man, I must find his name one day, who lent his private aircraft to Eddie Merckx and Claude Croquillon and the rest, who came over to the goodbye celebrations for Sean Kelly and Carrick-on-Suur in December last year. So he's been rewarded today, the boss of GB, with a success from his new young up-and-coming rider, I say not yet 21 years of age, and that's the sort of tactic we used to see from the bold Eddie Merckx at that early age. There we are in the background, the Automnium, dates back to about 1958, I think it was, when the big World Fair was held in Brussels, and it's one of the few remaining structures of the of that great World Fair. Nelson, you see, finishing 4th spot. This is why Frank Culvers might get a wigging from his team manager, because had the group come together, Nelson could well have been in there to win the race, and Johan Museeuw pushed back into 2nd spot, Franco Ballerini into 3rd. So those are the 3 great sprinter roadmen battling it out behind those riders. So Johan Museeuw looks fairly happy with the situation at the moment, and despite the fact that he didn't get a victory, his teammate did. Well, Van den Broek, we saw him in action in San Sebastian when he survived that one, and finished in about 8th place, just behind Chandri, who punctured when I'm sure had he stayed away, we might have had a different result that day in the San Sebastian Clash. Frank Culvers here, well, he looks reasonably happy with his performance. So we're seeing a little bit of turn up for the books today, because Culvers again, relatively young rider, and the Lotto team I think would have preferred to have Nelson in with a shout. Without the usual bouquets of flowers, the pot to go on the mantel shelf. That's the first of many, I'm sure. Well, not first, but he's done very well as an amateur. But that young lad, we're going to watch out with this fellow. Mark it in your book, says he, tapping the sides of his nose. So the Paris-Brussels victory for the 20-year-old Frank Van den Broek, a superbly well-timed way in which he went across the gaps, got up with the leaders, and just there caught again, rocketed off and stayed away, beating last year's Victor Sorensen back into 3rd spot. And that's it then, the Paris-Brussels brought to you on Eurosport. More cycling, and tomorrow we'll be back with the Tour of Spain on the flatter stadium before we hit the Pyrenees on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that'll be the Volta 12th stage. Will be on Eurosport tomorrow, and from the Paris-Brussels then, happy Frank Culvers for his 2nd spot, but even more elated Van den Broek for finishing in 1st.